My name is Clara. I'm 29, and I certainly never imagined my wedding day would start with an act of financial warfare. The notification flashed across my screen at 11:27 a.m. Exactly 33 minutes before I was scheduled to walk down the aisle of the Willow Creek Chapel in Crestwood Hills. My phone had vibrated on the cool marble vanity of the bridal suite, just as my maid of honor, Sophie, was making a final adjustment to my veil. That single, unassuming alert was the first tremor of an earthquake that would tear my world apart. The culprits? My very own parents, who had just locked me out of every single dollar I possessed. If you're listening to this, I'd love to know where you're from, so drop it in the comments, give this a like, and hit that subscribe button, because you're about to hear about the wedding day from absolute hell. To understand why my parents would orchestrate something so extreme on what should have been the most joyful day of my life, you have to understand the fabric of our relationship. I was raised in Crestwood Hills, an affluent suburb where your social standing was far more valuable than your personal happiness. My parents, Eleanor and Harrison Vance, were central figures in this community. My father, Harrison, managed a prestigious investment firm, while my mother, Eleanor, was the chairperson for every charity gala and social committee that mattered. From the outside, we looked like a postcard for the American dream. But behind the ornate doors of our home, life was very different. Their love language was, and always had been, control. Every choice I ever made, from the clothes I bought at the mall to the friends I was allowed to have over, was subject to their approval. My mother meticulously planned my 16th birthday party down to the specific shade of periwinkle on the invitations. My father monitored every penny I spent through high school with a family credit card that sent a detailed report straight to his inbox. When my college acceptance letters began to arrive, they made it abundantly clear that they would only finance my education at a school of their choosing. I ended up at Yale, which checked their Ivy League box, while also being just far enough away for me to feel like I could finally take a full breath. Those 4 years were my first real taste of freedom, even though they footed every bill and never let me forget it. We are investing in your future, Clara, because we know what's best, my father would declare during our mandatory monthly financial check-in calls. For years, I went along with their control because, frankly, I didn't know any other way to live. After graduating, I secured a position as a junior financial analyst at a top firm in Chicago. This felt like my true declaration of independence. I threw myself into my work, clocking 60-hour weeks and scaling the corporate ladder much faster than my peers. Within just a few years, I was earning a solid 6-figure salary. For the first time, I felt like I was actually building a life that was mine. And that's when Leo walked into my life. He was 30, working in our company's legal department, and he immediately caught my eye at a corporate team-building event. Unlike the polished trust fund men my parents had always paraded in front of me, Leo was refreshingly real. His parents were high school teachers from a small town in Michigan. He'd put himself through a state university and then law school on a combination of scholarships and student loans. He was brilliant, kind, and completely unimpressed by wealth for its own sake. Our first date was at a tiny, hole-in-the-wall pizza joint that quickly became our spot. When he asked me to marry him a year later, he proposed right there in that same booth, presenting me with a simple, elegant ring he had spent months saving for. He gently refused my offer to help pay for it. "This is something I need to do on my own," he'd explained, and my heart melted. My parents, predictably, despised him on sight. A lawyer from a state school in Michigan? My mother had sniffed, her disgust barely concealed, when I first brought him home for the holidays. Darling, you can aim so much higher. What about Jonathan Croft's son? He just became a partner at his law firm. The situation only got worse when we announced we were getting married. During a tense family dinner, my father pulled Leo aside and condescendingly offered to help his career in exchange for signing a prenuptial agreement. Leo politely refused both the career assistance and the prenup. As soon as Leo left the room to use the restroom, my father turned to me, his face grim. "He only wants you for your inheritance, Clara. Men from his background always do." "I have my own money now, Dad," I reminded him, my voice tight. "And Leo makes nearly as much as I do." "For now," he replied, the word hanging in the air like a threat. The wedding planning devolved into a full-scale war. I initially insisted that we would pay for everything ourselves. "We can afford it, Mom," I told her. But they were relentless, and I finally caved when my mother tearfully accused me of robbing her of the joy of planning her only daughter's wedding. That was my first major mistake. From that moment on, every decision was a power struggle. The venue had to be the Willow Creek Chapel, the place where generations of the local elite had exchanged vows. The guest list ballooned with my father's business partners and my mother's social acquaintances, most of whom I hadn't seen in years. When I fell in love with a simple, classic wedding dress, my mother insisted on a custom couture gown that cost more than a down payment on an apartment. Leo and I started to argue. "This isn't our wedding anymore, Clara," he said one night after a particularly draining cake-tasting session where my mother had belittled the baker we both loved. "I know," I admitted, exhausted, "but let's just survive this. Once we're married, our life will be our own." My second mistake was failing to see the obvious pattern. The wedding was never about celebrating our love. It was about my parents reasserting their control and cementing their social status. The harder Leo and I pushed for what we wanted, the tighter their grip became. A week before the wedding, my father summoned us to their house for a meeting. "We need to finalize the financial arrangements," he said, sliding a thick document across his mahogany desk. It was a post-nuptial agreement, even more restrictive than the prenup, designed to keep any inheritance or family gifts completely separate from our marital assets. "This is insulting," Leo said, his voice quiet but firm. "This is prudent," my father shot back. "Clara has significant trust funds and a future inheritance to protect." "We've already been over this," I said, my patience wearing thin. "We aren't signing anything." My mother looked at me, her expression pained. "Clara, please think about what you're doing. This family has spent generations building its wealth. We can't just let it be risked on someone we barely know." "You've known Leo for 2 years," I countered. "Not nearly long enough to gamble everything," my father replied flatly. We left without signing the document, the air thick with unspoken threats. The final week of wedding prep was miserably tense. My parents moved like cold, efficient robots, finalizing details while barely acknowledging Leo's existence. I foolishly thought they had accepted their defeat and were just nursing their disappointment. I had no idea they were preparing for an all-out assault. The morning of my wedding arrived with a sky of perfect, cloudless blue. It was the kind of crisp April day that wedding photographers dream of. I woke up in the bridal suite at the Crestwood Hills Hotel, surrounded by half-empty champagne flutes and the remains of a room-service breakfast. My bridesmaids showed up at 8 a.m., right before the hair and makeup team my mother had hired. Sophie, my best friend from college and maid of honor, was a godsend, keeping everything on track. She handed out the personalized robes, kept the mimosas flowing, and intercepted my mother's calls, which came every 20 minutes with just one more question about the reception seating chart. "You seem surprisingly calm," Sophie remarked as the makeup artist brushed foundation onto my skin. I feel calm, I replied, and I was surprised to find it was true. I just want to marry Leo. Everything else is just noise. By 11 a.m., my transformation was complete. The designer gown my mother had pushed for was, I had to admit, breathtaking. It was a waterfall of delicate lace and microscopic pearls. My hair was swept into a graceful updo, and the cathedral-length veil added the dramatic, traditional touch my mother craved. The photographer snapped photos of me looking thoughtfully out the window, laughing with my bridesmaids, and doing a clumsy practice run of my first dance with Sophie. 20 minutes until your father arrives to walk you down, the wedding planner announced, glancing at her clipboard. We are perfectly on schedule. And that's when my phone buzzed. I almost ignored it, assuming it was yet another text from my mother. But Sophie brought it over as she fussed with my veil, and I glanced at the screen. It was a notification from my banking app. Your account access has been temporarily suspended. Please contact customer service. That's odd, I murmured, trying to open the app. When I attempted to log in, a new message popped up. This account has been frozen pending verification. Please visit your local branch or call our security department. The first wave of panic washed over me. Sophie, something's wrong with my bank account. She frowned. Today? Of all days? It's probably just a system glitch. I quickly tried my investment portfolio app. The same message. Then my credit cards. All of them frozen. This can't be a coincidence, I said, my hands starting to tremble. Someone has frozen all of my accounts. My phone buzzed again. It was a text from my father. We need to talk before the ceremony. The post-nuptial agreement is with our attorney in the hotel lobby. Once Leo signs, we can resolve these unfortunate banking issues. I stared at the message, the words blurring. They did this, I whispered, showing the phone to Sophie. My parents froze my accounts to force us to sign. Sophie read the text, her expression shifting from confusion to pure rage. Are you kidding me? On your wedding day? That's financial abuse, Clara. My breathing grew shallow as the full scope of their plan crashed down on me. They hadn't just frozen my primary accounts. They had locked down my backup savings, even my credit cards. This wasn't a rash, angry impulse. They had systematically and methodically cut off every single financial lifeline I had 30 minutes before I was supposed to get married. Call the bank, Sophie urged, already dialing Leo's number on her own phone. The customer service representative on the line confirmed my worst fears. Yes, Ms. Vance. Your accounts have been placed on a temporary freeze at the request of the secondary account holders, pending resolution of a security concern. Secondary account holders? My parents aren't on my accounts, I protested. According to our records, Eleanor and Harrison Vance are listed as security contacts with temporary freeze authorization on these accounts. A cold sickness churned in my stomach. I had signed those forms years ago when I first opened my accounts in college, never once imagining they would ever use this power against me. I had never bothered to update the authorizations, even after I was fully independent. This is my money. I earned it, I told the representative, tears now threatening to streak my expensive makeup. I understand your frustration, ma'am, but I cannot lift the freeze without proper authorization. You will need to visit a branch with identification. It's my wedding day. The banks are closed for the weekend. This can't wait. I apologize for the inconvenience, but there is nothing I can do over the phone. I hung up just as Leo burst into the suite, still fumbling with his tie. He looked worried but resolute. Sophie called me. What's going on? He asked, taking my trembling hands. My parents, I explained, my voice breaking. They froze everything. I showed him my father's text. They're trying to blackmail us into signing their post-nup. Leo read the message, his jaw tightening. This is unfreaking believable. They're holding your money hostage. All of it, Leo. My checking, savings, my investments, even the credit cards. Can they even do that legally? Apparently. There's some kind of security authorization I signed when I was in college and never removed. Leo paced the suite, his hands balled into fists. So what's their play here? They expect me to just sign away your financial freedom to get this wedding back on track? Our wedding is in less than half an hour, Leo. What are we going to do? He took a deep, steadying breath. We call them. My mother answered on the first ring, as if she'd been waiting by the phone. Clara, is Leo with you? How could you do this? I demanded, putting the call on speaker. You froze my accounts on my wedding day. We did what was necessary. My father's voice cut in, sharp and cold. He was clearly right there with her. This family has standards, and they must be upheld. Standards. This is financial abuse. Don't be so melodramatic, Clara, my mother replied coolly. This is about protecting the family's assets. You've been completely unreasonable about this one simple request. A post-nuptial agreement, a week before our wedding, is not a simple request, Leo interjected, his voice laced with steel. And this is not how rational people negotiate. We have the family's best interests at heart, my father insisted. Sign the agreement, and the ceremony can proceed as planned. The accounts will be unfrozen instantly. And if we don't, I asked, though I already knew the answer. Then I suggest you start figuring out how to explain to 200 guests why there won't be a wedding today. The Willow Creek Chapel requires final payment before the ceremony begins, which, as you know, has not been made. The caterers and florists are also awaiting final payment. Without access to funds, I fail to see how you can possibly proceed. The calculated cruelty of it all hit me with the force of a physical blow. They had timed this perfectly, waiting for the one moment when I would be most vulnerable and have no options. The banks were closed. The vendors were waiting to be paid. My perfectly planned day was a house of cards, and they were holding the final critical card. I can't believe you would ruin your own daughter's wedding over money. Sophie spat into the phone, unable to hold back. This isn't about money, my mother said, her voice dripping with condescension. This is about legacy and making wise choices. Clara has always been so impulsive. Impulsive. I had dated Leo for 2 years. I had methodically built a successful career through sheer hard work, yet in their eyes, I was still a reckless child who couldn't be trusted. We are not signing anything, I said, a new strength rising from my anger, and we are getting married today, with or without your money. I ended the call before they could reply and immediately collapsed into sobs. My perfect day was in ruins, and I had no idea how to salvage it. The bridal suite, once buzzing with happy energy, was now silent except for my choked sobs. Leo knelt in front of me, taking my hands. Clara, look at me, he said softly. We have options. What options? I asked, mascara now definitely streaking down my face. They've cut us off. The venue, the caterer, the flowers, everything needs to be paid for. Money is just money, Clara, Leo said firmly. We can solve this. Sophie was already on her phone, typing furiously. I'm checking my accounts. I can transfer some emergency funds right now. Chloe, my bridesmaid from work, chimed in. I've got about $5,000 in savings. It's yours if you need it. And I can call my brother, Leo suggested. Mark just got his annual bonus. He might be able to float us something. I shook my head, overwhelmed. I can't ask you all to drain your bank accounts for my wedding. Our wedding? Leo corrected gently. And you're not asking, we're offering. My phone buzzed again, another text from my father. The attorney is waiting in the lobby. You have 20 minutes to make the right decision. I showed Leo the screen, and I saw something in his expression shift. The calm, rational lawyer was gone, replaced by a man fiercely protective of the woman he loved. This ends now, he said, getting to his feet. We need to talk to them, face to face. But we're supposed to get married in less than 30 minutes. Better to be 20 minutes late than to start our marriage with this hanging over our heads, he countered. He was right. I nodded, and Sophie helped me gather my massive dress so I could navigate the hotel hallways. The four of us, me, Leo, Sophie, and Chloe, marched to the elevator, a bizarre procession of formal attire and grim determination. My parents were sitting in the lobby bar with a silver-haired man I recognized as their longtime attorney, Julian Croft. They looked up, surprised to see us, as if they'd fully expected me to just fold under the pressure. "Clara?" my mother gasped. "You shouldn't be down here. It's bad luck for the groom to see the bride. I think we're a little past worrying about bad luck, Mom," I said, my voice cold as ice. "What you did goes far beyond that." My father straightened his tie, which was already perfect. "We are simply trying to protect you. By sabotaging my wedding? By holding my own money hostage? The money is just leverage," he said, as if he were explaining a simple business tactic. "Once the agreement is signed, everything returns to normal." Leo stepped forward. "Mr. and Mrs. Vance, for Clara's sake, I have tried to respect you both, despite your obvious disdain for me. But this crosses every conceivable line of human decency." "Young man," my father began, but Leo cut him off. "I am not interested in your money. I have never been interested in your money. I love your daughter, that is all. But what you've done today proves that you don't love her. You love being in control." My mother flinched as if she'd been slapped. "How dare you? Everything we do is for Clara's benefit." "Really?" I interjected. "Was humiliating me on my wedding day for my benefit? Was threatening to destroy the most important day of my life for my benefit?" Julian Croft, the attorney, cleared his throat. "Perhaps if we all just calm down, we can discuss this rationally." "There is nothing rational about financial extortion," Sophie muttered. "This is a family matter," my father said, dismissing her with a wave of his hand. "No," I said, my voice growing stronger with every word. "This is my life. It's my money, which I earned. And it's my wedding day, which you are actively destroying." I turned to the attorney. "Mr. Croft, as a lawyer, are you comfortable participating in what is essentially financial coercion?" He had the decency to look uneasy. "I am merely here to prepare the documents as requested by my clients." "Well, your clients are using those documents to commit emotional and financial abuse," Leo stated plainly, a fact I would be more than happy to discuss with the State Bar Association. Croft's face went pale. "Harrison, perhaps we should reconsider the timing of this discussion." My father ignored him. "Clara knows what needs to be done. Sign the papers, and this all goes away." I looked at them then. These two people who had raised me, who, in their own warped way, believed they were giving me the best of everything. And in that moment, I saw them with perfect, painful clarity. They were never going to change. No amount of my own success or happiness would ever convince them that I was capable of making my own choices. "No," I said, my voice quiet but unshakable. "I will not sign anything, and we are still getting married today." "Don't be ridiculous," my mother hissed. "How do you propose to pay for any of this? The final balances are due now." "We'll figure it out," Leo said, wrapping a protective arm around me. "Without you." "Then you'll have no wedding," my father declared, his voice booming with finality. "The Willow Creek will not proceed without payment. The caterers will pack up their things and leave. Then we'll get married somewhere else," I decided, the words coming out before I'd even fully formed the thought. With the people who actually love and support us. I turned to walk away, but my father's voice called after me. If you walk out that door, there will be consequences, Clara. Financial consequences you can't even imagine. I stopped and turned to face him one last time. I've already paid the price for your version of love, Dad. I almost lost myself trying to please you. I am not losing Leo, too. Back in the bridal suite, the wedding planner was on the verge of a complete meltdown. The ceremony was supposed to begin 5 minutes ago. The guests are all seated. The musicians are playing the prelude. What is going on? I took a deep breath. There's been a change of plans. The Willow Creek Chapel is no longer our venue. Her eyes went wide. What? But everything is set up. The flowers, the altar. I know, I interrupted, but we need a new plan, right now. Leo was already on the phone with his brother Mark, quickly explaining the situation. Sophie was coordinating with the other bridesmaids and the groomsmen. Chloe was frantically searching for alternative venues on her phone. The park, she suggested. Crestwood Hills Park has that beautiful public gazebo by the lake. They can't stop us from using that. In April? With no reservation? The wedding planner protested, looking horrified. Do you have a better idea? I shot back. She paused, then her professional demeanor clicked back into place. Let me make a few calls. I know the manager at the Gardenia Terrace, a restaurant that overlooks the park. They have a private garden. It would be a much smaller reception, but they might be able to handle 50 people on short notice. Do it, I said without hesitation. Leo hung up his phone, a look of relief on his face. Mark is wiring $12,500 to my account. It should clear within the hour. That should cover the most urgent costs. And I can put another $5,000 on my credit card, Sophie added. The wedding planner was already in command mode. Okay, we'll need to inform the guests of the venue change. The florist can move the essential arrangements. The photographer has to be redirected. What about the cake? Chloe asked. The baker is a friend, the planner replied with a determined look. She'll help us. Within 20 chaotic minutes, a new wedding plan was born. The ceremony would now be at the Gardenia Terrace's private garden at 3 p.m., a 2-hour delay. A small reception would follow in their main dining room. The wedding party split up to personally inform the guests about the move. Leo looked at me, his eyes full of concern. Are you sure about this, Clara? We could just postpone. Do this properly another time. I shook my head firmly. I am not letting them win. We are getting married today. Word of the change spread like wildfire through the Willow Creek Chapel. Guests murmured amongst themselves as our friends explained that the ceremony had been relocated. My parents remained in the front row, their faces like stone, as people started to gather their belongings and look up the new address on their phones. What happened? I heard one of my mother's friends ask her. Oh, Clara just had a last-minute change of heart about the venue, my mother replied smoothly, not missing a beat. You know how brides can be, so impulsive. I bit my tongue so hard I tasted blood and focused on the mission. Our makeshift caravan of friends and loyal family headed to the Gardenia Terrace, carrying whatever decorations we could salvage. The restaurant staff was incredible, scrambling to set up chairs in their garden, which was thankfully already in full spring bloom. The florist arrived with the ceremony arch and our bouquets, setting them up with impressive speed. My couture gown, which had seemed so fitting for the grand chapel, now felt a bit over the top in this simple, beautiful garden. But as I waited in the restaurant's small office, our new bridal suite, I found that I no longer cared. Your makeup needs a little touch-up, Sophie said gently, dabbing at the tear tracks on my cheeks. Does it even matter anymore? I asked wearily. Yes, she said with fierce loyalty. It matters, because this is still your wedding day, and you are still marrying the man you love. The rest of it is just background noise. She was right. I took a deep breath and let her fix my face. The chaos had stripped away all the superficial nonsense that had plagued the last year of planning. The color of the napkins, the seating chart, the perfectly timed sparkler exit, none of it mattered. All that remained was the one essential truth. I loved Leo, and I wanted to be his wife. At exactly 3 p.m., the small string quartet that had graciously followed us to the new location began to play. The garden doors opened, and I saw Leo standing under a beautiful archway of roses. Only about 60 of our original 200 guests had made the journey. My parents, unsurprisingly, were not among them. With my father absent, I started the walk down the aisle alone. But before I had taken 3 steps, Sophie was at my side, linking her arm through mine. "No one walks alone on their wedding day," she whispered. Chloe joined on my other side, and together, my 2 best friends escorted me towards my future. As the guests stood, many of them smiling through tears, I felt more genuinely loved and supported than I ever had under my parents' oppressive care. The ceremony was short and deeply personal. The officiant, who had rearranged his entire day for us, spoke about the power of resilience and true partnership. Leo and I had scribbled new vows on cocktail napkins during the chaotic transition, and they were 1,000 times better than the formal ones we had planned. "Clara," Leo said, his hands holding mine tightly, "today has proved to me that with you by my side, there is no obstacle we can't overcome. I promise to be your partner in everything, to face every challenge with you, and to never let anyone or anything diminish the incredible thing we have built together." My own vows were just as raw, but they came from the heart. "Leo, I choose you, not because it's easy, but because loving you has taught me what real support feels like. I promise to stand with you, to build our own traditions, and to create our own path, free from manipulation and control. Whatever comes next, we face it as a team." When the officiant pronounced us husband and wife, the small crowd erupted in cheers that were so full of joy they sounded like 1,000 people. We walked back down the makeshift aisle and into the restaurant's main room, where the staff had worked miracles setting up a reception space. The wedding coordinator met us, looking apologetic. "We've had to make some adjustments. The DJ couldn't make the change, but we have a sound system you can plug a phone into. The 4-tier cake is now a 2-tier with sheet cakes for serving, and the plated dinner is now a buffet. It's perfect," I assured her. Truly. And it was. The smaller, more intimate reception had a warmth and energy the stuffy ballroom at the hotel never could have. Our friends and family gathered around tables, sharing stories and giving heartfelt toasts. The playlist became a group effort. Our first dance was to a slightly crackly version of At Last, playing from someone's phone plugged into the restaurant speakers. As Leo held me close, he whispered, "Are you okay?" I looked around the room at the smiling faces of the people who had stood by us. "I'm better than okay," I realized with a sudden clarity. "I'm free." As the night went on, I kept waiting for a wave of sadness about my parents' absence to hit me, but it never came. Instead, I felt a strange sense of lightness. For the first time in my life, I had defied their manipulation and chosen my own happiness. Sophie found me by the dessert table and gave me a fierce hug. "I am so unbelievably proud of you, Clara. What your parents did was unforgivable." "I don't know what happens now," I admitted. "We're starting our marriage in debt to our friends. My accounts are frozen, and my parents are furious." "But you're starting it on your own terms," she reminded me. And that's worth more than any fancy wedding. As the party wound down, Leo and I personally thanked every single guest who had stayed. Many had quietly pooled their money for a cash gift to help with our immediate expenses. My colleague David, a senior analyst at my firm, promised to help me navigate the banking nightmare first thing Monday morning. When we finally collapsed into our hotel room, exhausted and happy, I kicked off my painful heels and sank onto the bed. "Some wedding day, huh?" Leo said, loosening his tie. "Not exactly what we planned." "No," he said, a surprising conviction in his voice. "It was better, because it was real. It was us, making choices together, supporting each other, not just following someone else's script." I thought about that as I unzipped my elaborate gown. "You know this isn't over, don't you? My parents won't just let this go." Leo nodded grimly. "I know. But whatever they throw at us next, we'll handle it. Together." I fell asleep in my husband's arms, emotionally drained, but feeling a sense of peace I hadn't known was possible. I had no idea that the war with my parents was just beginning, or that I was about to discover the perfect way to turn their own weapons against them. Our honeymoon was a modest 3-day trip to a little bed and breakfast on the coast, paid for with Leo's credit card since all of mine were still useless. We spent our time walking on the beach, talking for hours, and trying not to think about the financial disaster waiting for us back in Chicago. "We need a plan," Leo said on our last morning there, as we watched the sun rise over the water. "I know," I agreed. "First priority is getting my accounts unfrozen, and then we make sure they can never ever do this to me again." When we got back home, the reality of our situation hit us like a ton of bricks. Our apartment rent was due in a week, my accounts were still locked solid, and the debts to our friends weighed on me. Monday morning, I walked into my local bank branch armed with my marriage certificate and driver's license. "I need to speak to the branch manager about an unauthorized freeze placed on my accounts," I told the teller with as much authority as I could muster. The manager, a kind-looking woman named Patricia, reviewed my file with a concerned frown. "This is highly unusual. The security freeze was initiated by secondary signatories." "My parents," I explained. "Who should have no authority over my accounts as an adult?" She typed for a moment. "It seems they were added as security contacts with temporary freeze authorization when the accounts were first opened. When I was 18, I confirmed. I never removed them because I never knew I had to." Patricia nodded sympathetically. "Unfortunately, to remove a security freeze of this nature, we require either their authorization or a court order establishing financial independence." "A court order?" I repeated, my heart sinking. "That could take months." "I'm afraid those are the procedures, Ms. Vance. Or I should say, Mrs. Carter." I left the bank feeling utterly defeated. Leo met me for lunch, his hopeful expression falling the moment he saw my face. "No luck?" he asked. "They need a court order or my parents' sign-off," I told him, slumping into the chair. "Neither of which is going to happen." Leo, ever the pragmatist, immediately started outlining our next steps. We would live entirely on his salary and credit cards for the time being. His brother, Mark, had generously insisted his wedding contribution was a gift, not a loan, which helped. It would be tight, but we could make it work. "We need a lawyer," he said. "I know a few good people at my firm who specialize in these kinds of family financial disputes. We can't afford legal fees right now," I reminded him. "We'll find a way. Maybe someone can take the case pro bono or on contingency." I nodded, but my mind was already spinning in a different direction. I'd worked in finance for years. There had to be an angle I was missing, some piece of leverage I could use. That night, I was digging through boxes of old paperwork in our home office when I stumbled upon a dusty folder labeled Family Financial Planning. Inside were statements from my parents' various retirement and investment funds. I had almost completely forgotten that 3 years prior, my father had proudly added me as an authorized financial advisor on their main portfolio. It was his way of showing off that his daughter was following in his footsteps. For our peace of mind, he had said at the time. In case anything ever happens to us, you'll have access to manage things. Back then, I'd seen it as a rare gesture of trust. Now, a new, audacious thought began to form in my mind. I called my colleague David, who specialized in high net worth account management. Hypothetically, I began, if someone is an authorized financial advisor on an account, what can they actually do? Depends on the level of authorization, he explained. But usually they can review balances, execute trades, and in some cases, place temporary security holds if there's suspicious activity. Suspicious activity? I repeated, my pulse quickening. Like what? Unusual withdrawal patterns, large transfers, potential fraud. It's a protective measure. I thanked him and hung up, my mind racing. I had never once used my access to their accounts. It felt like crossing a line, but they had already obliterated that line. They had violated my trust in the most public and humiliating way imaginable. The next day, I did a deep dive. Using my advisor credentials, I saw exactly what they'd been up to. This wasn't a spontaneous act of anger. They had been planning this financial ambush for weeks. What was even more disturbing was what I found in their recent activity. In the weeks leading up to my wedding, they had moved substantial sums of money to offshore accounts. I found drafts of emails to their attorney discussing strategies to shield their assets from any potential claims following my marriage. They weren't just trying to control me, they were preparing to cut me out entirely if I didn't fall in line. Leo found me at our kitchen table, surrounded by printouts, my face illuminated by the glow of my laptop. "What is all this?" he asked. "Evidence," I replied, my voice grim. "My parents have been planning this for a while." And I found something else. They've been using some very creative tax strategies with their retirement funds, moving money around in ways that a federal auditor might find very interesting. Leo looked at me carefully. "Clara, what are you thinking?" I looked up at my husband, a cold resolve settling over me. "I'm thinking they used their financial authority to attack us. Maybe it's time I used mine to defend us." "You have authority over their accounts?" "I'm an authorized financial advisor on their main retirement portfolio. I can place a security hold if I suspect irregular activity." Leo sat down, his expression serious. "Are you suggesting what I think you are? They froze my life savings on our wedding day. What if I froze their retirement funds pending a fraud investigation?" He considered it for a moment. "That would certainly get their attention. But is it legal?" "It's as legal as what they did to me," I retorted. "I have legitimate concerns about their recent activity. The offshore transfers, the timing. As a financial professional, I could argue I have a fiduciary duty to flag these suspicious patterns." "This is a huge step, Clara," Leo cautioned. "It will escalate things dramatically." "They already declared war, Leo," I reminded him. "Right now they think they hold all the cards. This will level the playing field." We talked late into the night, weighing the risks. My parents could retaliate. They could try to have me fired. It could damage my professional reputation. But the alternative was months of financial struggle and a legal battle we might not even win. My parents had taught me that money was a weapon. It was time I showed them I knew how to use it too. The next morning, I made my move. Using my advisor credentials, I submitted a formal security hold request on my parents' primary retirement accounts, citing unusual transfer patterns and potential tax irregularities requiring immediate review. I attached the documentation of their recent offshore transfers and excerpts from their own emails discussing asset protection strategies that bordered on tax evasion. It was all factual, but I framed it in a way that I knew would set off alarm bells in any compliance department. Within hours, an automated email confirmed it. The security hold was in place. My parents' retirement funds, over 70% of their liquid net worth, were frozen solid. Then I picked up the phone and called their attorney, Julian Croft. "Mr. Croft, this is Clara Vance." "Well, Clara Carter now. I need to schedule an urgent meeting with my parents." "Regarding what matter?" he asked cautiously. "Regarding the mutual financial holds that seem to be affecting both my accounts and their retirement funds," I replied, my voice perfectly even. "I believe we can reach a resolution that is beneficial to all parties." There was a long, stunned silence on the other end of the line. "I will check their availability and call you back." An hour later, a meeting was set for the following morning at his office. "Are you sure about this?" Leo asked as we prepared our strategy that night. "I have never been more sure of anything in my life," I replied. For the first time, I was fighting back on equal ground. The law offices of Croft, Roberts Klein, were on the top floor of a gleaming skyscraper downtown. We arrived 15 minutes early, dressed for battle. Leo, in his best suit, looked every inch the formidable corporate lawyer. I had chosen a severe black dress and simple pearl earrings, an outfit that screamed confidence and seriousness. "Remember the plan," Leo whispered as the elevator ascended. "Stay calm, stick to the facts. Don't let them bait you with emotional attacks." I nodded, taking a steadying breath. Facts, not feelings. The receptionist led us to a large conference room where my parents and Julian Croft were waiting. My mother looked haggard, the polished veneer finally cracking. My father sat stiffly in his chair, his face a thunderous mask of rage and disbelief. "Clara," he said, his voice dripping with ice as we entered. "I assume you're here to explain why our retirement accounts have been frozen." "I'm here to negotiate a resolution to our mutual financial predicament," I replied, my tone as cool and professional as his. Julian Croft cleared his throat. "Perhaps we can begin by establishing the facts. It appears there are financial holds on accounts belonging to both parties." "That is correct," I confirmed, opening my leather portfolio and distributing copies of a document I'd prepared overnight. This timeline outlines the sequence of events, starting with the unauthorized freezing of my personal and investment accounts on April 10th, approximately 30 minutes before my wedding. My mother flinched. Following that, I continued, and after discovering highly unusual transfer patterns and potential tax irregularities in the Vance family retirement accounts, I exercised my fiduciary duty as an authorized financial advisor to request a security hold pending a full investigation. "This is an outrage," my father exploded. "You're abusing your authorization out of pure spite." Leo spoke for the first time, his voice calm and deadly. "No more outrageous than freezing your own daughter's accounts on her wedding day as a form of blackmail, Harrison." "Perhaps we should focus on a path forward," Croft interjected, clearly uncomfortable. "I agree," I said, sliding another document across the table. "I have prepared a proposed resolution. In summary, I am requesting the immediate release of all my accounts, the permanent removal of any secondary authorizations or security contacts from those accounts, and a legally binding agreement that no further attempts will be made to interfere with my finances." My father's face grew red as he scanned the paper. "And in exchange, You'll release our retirement funds? This is blackmail. This is a negotiation, I corrected him, using the exact same tactics you used against me. We were trying to protect you, my mother insisted, her voice thin and reedy. You have no idea what you're doing. I am a senior financial analyst with 6 years of experience managing portfolios larger than our family's entire net worth. I reminded her calmly. I know exactly what I'm doing. Croft reviewed my proposal with a detached air. The proposal itself seems straightforward. All security holds are lifted simultaneously, with written agreements preventing future interference. There's more, my father growled, flipping to the second page. She wants us to reimburse the costs they incurred from the venue change. That was their choice. A choice forced by your actions, Leo pointed out. Those expenses are a direct result of your decision to freeze Clara's accounts without warning. The tension in the room was thick enough to cut with a knife. Amanda, can we please speak privately? Just the two of us? My mother pleaded, her eyes welling up. Leo looked at me, but we had already agreed on this. Anything you need to say to me, you can say in front of my husband, I told her firmly. Fine, she sighed. I want to understand why you're doing this to us. We're your parents. We love you. If you truly believe that, then you don't understand the first thing about the damage you've caused, I replied. You humiliated me. You forced us to scramble for a new wedding, to explain to our friends and family why our day was ruined, to start our marriage in debt. We were protecting the family assets, my father repeated. No, I said, my voice low and clear. You were protecting your control. And when I refused to be controlled, you punished me in the cruelest way you could imagine. That was not our intent, my mother claimed weakly. I pulled out my phone and held it up, displaying the text my father had sent me. Once Leo signs, we can resolve these unfortunate banking issues. Your intent was perfectly clear. Sign or suffer. My father had the decency to look away. Croft read through the documents one more time. The terms are quite reasonable, he advised my parents quietly. The reimbursement is documented and fair. The provisions simply establish healthy boundaries. And if we refuse, my father asked, then the security hold on your retirement accounts remains in place while a full investigation proceeds, I said. And I will instruct my attorney to begin the process of getting a court order to unfreeze my own funds, along with filing a complaint for financial abuse. The room fell silent. Finally, my father spoke. We need time to consider this. You have until 5 p.m. today, I replied, standing up. After that, I will be unable to expedite the removal of the security hold, and the standard investigation process, which can take several months, will continue. As we turned to leave, my mother grabbed my arm. Clara, please, we can work this out, as a family. I looked into her eyes, searching for a flicker of genuine remorse, but I saw only the same old manipulative patterns. We are working it out, I replied, pulling my arm away, with clear terms and boundaries, the way adults are supposed to. At 4:45 p.m., Julian Croft called. My parents had signed the agreement. By the next morning, all the freezes would be lifted and the wire transfer for our wedding expenses would be on its way. Your parents wanted me to convey that they hope you will reconsider the restrictions on future financial interactions, he added. The agreement allows for gifts and support that are freely given, I reminded him. It only restricts those that come with strings attached. I understand, he said. And for what it's worth, I believe this is for the best. Coercion within families rarely ends well. I thanked him and hung up, a complicated storm of relief, vindication, and a deep, profound sadness washing over me. They signed, I said to Leo, who had been watching me from the doorway. He wrapped his arms around me. "How do you feel?" "Honestly, I don't know," I whispered. "Part of me is so proud for finally standing up to them, and another part is just sad that it had to come to this." "That's understandable," he said, holding me tighter. "They're still your parents." "Yes," I agreed, "but our relationship will never be the same." True to the agreement, my accounts were unfrozen the next morning. The reimbursement arrived shortly after, allowing us to pay back our wonderful friends. I immediately had my parents removed as security contacts on every single one of my accounts. For the first few weeks, communication was limited to terse texts confirming the terms of the agreement had been met. My mother sent a few tentative invitations to lunch, which I politely declined. I needed space. James was a rock, never pressuring me. "Whatever relationship you want with them is your decision," he'd said. "I'll support you no matter what." 2 months after the wedding, I finally agreed to meet my parents at a quiet, neutral restaurant. The tension was thick as we made awkward small talk. Finally, my father cleared his throat. "Your mother and we've been doing some thinking, and we found a family therapist who specializes in issues of financial control." I was floored. "You're seeing a therapist?" "For several weeks now," my mother confirmed. "Dr. Martin has been helping us see patterns in our behavior. We have a long way to go, but we're trying to understand." I was skeptical, but it was the first crack of light I'd seen. "What kind of patterns?" "Using money as a form of control," my father admitted, looking down at his hands. "Dr. Martin calls it financial abuse." It was difficult to hear that term, but she helped us see how our behavior affected you. "We never meant to hurt you, Clara. We honestly thought we were protecting you." "But you did hurt me," I said quietly. "Do you have any idea how it felt?" He finally looked me in the eye. "I'm beginning to." The therapist asked me to imagine how I would feel if my own father had frozen my accounts on my wedding day. I had never considered it from that perspective. It wasn't a perfect apology, but it was a start. They asked if Leo and I would be willing to join them for a session. After talking it over, we agreed to try. The first few sessions were raw and uncomfortable, but over the months, we made slow, halting progress. There were breakthroughs. In one session, my father finally offered a genuine, unqualified apology. "What I did was wrong," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "I was so afraid of losing control that I couldn't see the damage I was causing. I am so sorry, Clara." Those words began the slow process of healing. We built new boundaries. They learned to offer support without conditions, and I learned to accept it without suspicion. The whole experience had changed me. Standing up to them had forced me to find a strength I never knew I had. My relationship with my parents would never be what it was, but in many ways, it's healthier now, built on a foundation of respect instead of control. That chaotic wedding day wasn't the end of my story. It was the beginning of my real adult life. Not because I got married, but because I finally chose myself. If you're watching this and you recognize any of these patterns in your own life, whether with parents, partners, or friends, please know that you deserve autonomy and respect. Sometimes you have to be the one to rock the boat to find calmer waters. Has anyone else ever dealt with financial control from family? I'd be really interested to read your stories in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please give it a like and subscribe to hear more about setting boundaries and finding your own freedom. Thank you for listening. And remember, standing up for yourself isn't just brave, it's necessary. Share this video if you think someone else needs to hear this message today.